Hello, my name is Kate McNally Carter, and I'm excited to present Serendipity in Asynchronicity, Lessons Learned from an Online Asynchronous Open Pedagogy Project. In this video, I'll be describing my experience supporting a course using an open pedagogy model, where students were invited to contribute their work towards an open educational resource. This course was unique because it was my first time supporting open pedagogy in an online asynchronous format as an embedded librarian. This talk will focus on my process for supporting the course and how other instructors and librarians could repeat and improve on this project. I'll spend time talking about the videos I created for the course and the unique challenges and lessons learned from working with an online course. The University of Houston is an R1 university with an annual enrollment of about 47,000 students. The OER program at UH Libraries began in 2018 with the hiring of the OER coordinator and the subsequent launch of the Alternative Textbook Incentive Program, or ATIP. ATIP is an ongoing incentive program that provides awards for instructors to replace a commercial textbook with OER, library resources, or other freely available resources. Textbook affordability was the initial focus of the program overall, but this focus has shifted over time to prioritize the adoption, adaptation, and creation of OER. Last year, a new incentive program was launched with the OER Creation Program, which awards teams of faculty and instructional designers up to $10,000 for the creation of new OER textbooks. Shortly after the launch of this program, I joined the university as a new OER librarian, reporting to the OER coordinator, and we immediately began to engage in open pedagogy support, piloting the UH Library's first open pedagogy collaboration. The UH Libraries recognized the rapid growth in open education support by creating our new department, Open Education Services, occupied by myself and the OER coordinator, who became the head of Open Education Services. Our department is located in the Research and Student Engagement portfolio. With our new department, our focus has shifted away from textbook affordability and more toward how open educational practices can contribute to student success. This was just a quick overview of our department's history. There were other developments between 2018 and 2022 that I won't go into detail here, but I wanted to provide some context for our more recent developments. So next, I'll go over the context for the assignment and the course that I've supported. I mentioned that our department piloted open pedagogy support when I first came on board in fall 2022. The head of OES and I worked very closely with a faculty member in the Chinese Studies program who was interested in implementing open pedagogy for her Tales of East Asian Cities course. In that course, students used Pressbooks to co-author a textbook comprised of essays and background information on a series of East Asian cities for their final project. Students were invited to contribute their work to this textbook under a specific license of their choosing, and they could also select how they would be credited. Some students elected to publish under a pseudonym or simply publish their work anonymously. We also had a few students elect not to include their work in the open textbook, so those students' work was not published. Because this was our first open pedagogy collaboration, a lot of time was spent before the semester meeting with the faculty member and helping design the assignment. We took care to ensure that student agency was preserved throughout the process and established procedures and documentation for capturing students' preferences for the publication of their work. Initially, the assignment was structured as a group assignment, which made it difficult for us to give students the freedom of choice that we felt was ideal for maximizing their agency over their work. Later, the assignment was broken down into individual components that students could then license and publish individually. We also learned a great deal about establishing parameters for the assignment early on and communicating expectations to students. Although the initial intention was to give students autonomy for completing their assignment by using a flexible format, we found that they really wanted to have a clear structure for what their assignment should look like, so that they would know if they were meeting the expectations for the assignment. This was a good lesson for us and has been really helpful in early consultative phases with faculty, where we can help them balance the benefits of flexible assignments that appeal to student interests, while also ensuring that students know what a successful end product looks like. So this was a very time-intensive, high-engagement collaboration. The class met face-to-face twice per week, and the UH Libraries was involved in 6 of the different class meetings. Though this was valuable for us to gain experience with open pedagogy and learn firsthand about the student reception to the assignment and the types of questions that came up for them, we realized that we would need to think strategically about sustainability of these types of projects for long-term success in open pedagogy support. The following spring, the faculty member we worked with indicated interest in continuing our collaboration, this time in her Chinese popular culture course. We knew going into this semester that this course would be very different in terms of engagement because of its online asynchronous format. So for this course, I volunteered to take the lead on creating the materials and working with the students to help them complete their assignment in Pressbooks. So before the semester started, we met with a faculty member to discuss the course structure and how open pedagogy could enhance student learning. After some discussion of a few different options, we determined that she was using a renewable assignment that could be restructured into an open publishing project for students. In her course, she asked her students to write dictionary definitions of Chinese pop culture terms and post these to a shared Padlet. She noted that an open Chinese pop culture dictionary didn't exist, so with this assignment, students could help create this as a new OER. For this assignment, students self-selected 3 Chinese popular culture terms using a shared document so that students didn't choose terms that their classmates were already defining. Then, for their midterm, they would write up a definition of each of their 3 terms in Pressbooks. One of their terms was due a few weeks prior to the overall midterm due date, and this was so that the instructor could provide early feedback and also so that we could help ensure that students were able to access and use Pressbooks, since we anticipated that some may have trouble with the new platform. So to support the course, I created 2 main resources and then engaged with them in Blackboard as an embedded librarian. So first, I created 4 instructional videos. Because I wouldn't have the opportunity to meet with the students to provide the instruction we had delivered in the previous semester, I wanted to make sure students could get the same content. So I streamlined the presentations into shorter 5 to 10-minute videos, really focusing on the content they needed to fully engage and participate in the open publishing process. Most of the videos were created in PowerPoint with some additional screen capturing and editing for the Pressbooks video. I recorded the videos using the built-in Microsoft Video Editor, which was very simply just called Video Editor. This app has since been replaced by Microsoft Clipchamp. The editor didn't provide all the options I was used to having from working with previous video and audio editors, but it worked well for the project, and it was free through our institutional Microsoft license. So the first video focused on open publishing and OER and helping students understand their rights and responsibilities as student authors contributing to the OER dictionary. This video briefly introduced the assignment and basically what it would mean for them to be contributing their work to an OER. It included some discussion of the benefits of open publishing, as well as some questions we wanted students to consider, such as their comfort level with publishing their work with their name attached to it. The second video focused on the basics of Creative Commons, including the 4 components of the licenses and the 6 licenses themselves. It also demonstrates how the CC licenses appear in Pressbooks with some examples. And then Pressbooks was the topic of the third video, and this was the most customized video of the 3, discussing the specifics of how students would be granted access to the platform, what their webbook would look like, and how to navigate the book's dashboard and editing screen. It was the most time-consuming video to make since I knew the videos would be posted to a public guide, and I wanted to be really careful to protect student privacy since I had already created the chapters with the student names in the titles. I used callouts to cover student names, so this took quite a bit of time. The last video covered citations and attributions and how these differ between copyrighted resources and OER. So to share these videos, I uploaded them to Microsoft OneDrive and shared them using Microsoft Stream. Fortunately, this also had transcript capabilities that I was able to edit, and then it also had some analytics features, which I'll chat more about in a few minutes. With all the videos created, I populated a library guide where they would be linked and where students would find more information specifically addressing their assignment. I added information about the assignment from the syllabus to the home page and also linked a sample dictionary entry that was provided by the instructor. Because this guide was also hoping to create context for the students who likely had never encountered open publishing before, I also added some examples of other student-created OER to help them see how their work could be discovered and used by other students and instructors. On the home page, I linked the videos, starting with the first two on open publishing and Creative Commons, along with another Creative Commons video. The second page focused on Pressbooks, providing direct links to the Pressbooks platform, as well as a link to the student agreement form used for the course to help us capture student preferences regarding their interest in including their work in the published OER, their license preference, and also how they wanted to be credited. We collected responses in Qualtrics, but we also provided a PDF copy of the agreement for them to review beforehand. And then finally, I posted the Intro to Pressbooks video I created here, along with some other official Pressbooks videos I thought might be helpful to them. I included a page for them to find OER. Students were allowed to incorporate some open materials into their assignment, though I don't believe any of them incorporated any open text materials in their work. And then the last page focused on citing and attributing OER, where I posted the fourth video and then also provided text describing the video's content and how to add attributions to media uploaded in Pressbooks. The instructor added me to the course in Blackboard and encouraged me to email the class regularly with updates and reminders about the assignment. She also scheduled one virtual synchronous check-in meeting where students were able to sign up in groups for specific time slots she offered. I was able to join two of those meetings and talk with students directly about their assignment, but unfortunately, it was a bit early before the midterm was due, and so this was time that I just spent introducing the midterm assignment to them, and they didn't have any questions yet. Also, because of some meeting conflicts, I wasn't able to attend all of the sessions that she offered, so that limited my ability to engage with all of the students. I did encounter some challenges with the asynchronous format. The first of which was probably the biggest. It was really challenging to gauge student engagement with the library guide and the videos I created. In retrospect, even though I did email the students regularly and linked to the guide in Blackboard, I don't think that the layout of the guide was very intuitive for most students. I think students may not have realized that they needed to scroll down to view the videos that were buried toward the bottom of the first two pages, and they may not have clicked through all of the pages of the guide. It was evident from the LibGuide statistics that students were visiting the guide in the 2 weeks leading up to the assignment, but the statistics on the videos were a little bit less reassuring. I mentioned before that I used the analytics feature of Microsoft Stream. This enabled me to see the number of views as well as the number of unique viewers of the videos. Unfortunately, even with reminder emails, it seemed that students were not watching the videos. According to the analytics on the videos, the first video had about 7 unique viewers, and the last video had 4. Since I didn't require a login to watch the videos, thinking that that would impede student access and discourage them from watching, it was impossible to tell who those unique viewers were and if they were even students. Another challenge was that students did not always use openly licensed media in their chapters, and they didn't always provide attribution information, which required the instructor and myself to ask them later in the semester to go back and add in this information later. Again, because students didn't watch the videos, I don't think we met the learning objective of proper use and attribution of materials. This was especially tricky because this subject area of Chinese pop culture tends to favor the use of materials under traditional copyright rather than open materials. I would say that I definitely learned quite a bit over the course of the semester working with this course. From a practical standpoint, I learned a lot about Pressbooks, and I found that it took me much longer than I anticipated to create the book, create student accounts, add the students as authors to the book, create their chapters, and assign them to their chapters so that they could only view and edit their own, and then also apply their license and publication or visibility preferences. I found it really helpful to document the procedures that I used, which will be helpful in future courses. Another lesson was to create learning objects inside the course rather than using a LibGuide. While LibGuides can be wonderful tools to share resources, they aren't always intuitive for our students to use when everything else they need is already in their LMS. Currently, a major step we're making toward this is we're currently adapting the video content into online interactive tutorials that can be embedded into the LMS. The university just switched from Blackboard to Canvas this semester, so this has been also a new learning curve, but I am excited about the opportunity to build out these modules and then upload them as graded assignments directly into the course. We can then require students to complete the modules before they are given access to Pressbooks, and the grading aspect of this will help us track student engagement. So in order to make our open pedagogy support more sustainable over time, we've also been creating these tutorials with a more general audience in mind. Although tailoring the content of the lesson to the specific assignment would be ideal, this wouldn't be sustainable for us in the long run. We've intentionally been creating these materials in such a way that they can be reused for other open pedagogy assignments, which will help us expand our services even more broadly. And then something that is especially important for an online course is the importance of engaging with students early on in the course and often. And this is particularly true for embedded librarians who may be a little bit on the periphery of the rest of the course. It can also be helpful to check in with individual students who haven't been very responsive, so having ways to track student engagement can be really helpful in that regard. And then finally, we did receive one point of feedback from a student from the semester prior, and this point is really broadly applicable to other open pedagogy assignments rather than just an online asynchronous course. But for cumulative projects like a final project, the student noted that some of the other assignments could have been more intentionally scaffolded to build toward the larger end product. So this was especially true for the previous semester where students contributed chapters to an OER text. In this case, the assignment was a bit smaller scope and was relatively standalone. However, I wanted to mention it here because I thought it was a helpful recommendation for future collaborations. And moving into this new semester, we're excited to pilot our new lessons and better engage with the course. This time, the assignment is structured as a final rather than a midterm, so we have a little bit more time to develop and then deliver the materials. We're hoping that this semester will result in the second volume of the Chinese Pop Culture Dictionary series. And as the instructor continues to teach this course, she is hoping to collect some exemplary student work into a separate compilation. So we're excited to be moving a bit closer to making that a reality. So thanks very much for watching my session. I hope you'll reach out to me by email or on the conference platform if you have any questions or comments about this presentation. My email is kmcarter@uh.edu. Enjoy the rest of the Open Ed conference.